such a beautiful morning, and now the sun's out, right? Like, I was like, yuck, right? Woke up this morning, it was all misty and cold. We actually opened our window last night. I was like, ooh, fall. So exciting. And then now the sun's out, right? Yeah. I know I'm in the wrong part of the state, but it was nice for a moment. And then like our soccer practice yesterday wasn't hot. Like it felt like we were in September for a moment, like how I picture September. I always forget that it's like one of the hottest months of the year, but it was nice for a moment this morning. Uh, I hope you're all doing well. I wrote this up here. I want to remind you, I've been mentioning it, but I wanted to mention it one more time so that over the weekend you have time to work on it. Remember that the first homework assignment is due Monday. Okay, so it's like 25 points, so it's like 2.5 participations. You definitely want to spend some time on it. So it's due by Monday on Canvas. If I go really quickly here, I just wanted to show you on Canvas where you could find it. So if you are on our Canvas page and you click on modules, and then wait, so here's where it says homework assignment 1, and then you'll have a second one later in the semester. But if you click on homework assignment 1 right here, it'll bring up the instructions for you, right? So you can click on the little menu. There are 2 of them, but you're only doing 1 each time. So if you click on the menu, it'll open that up. And what it has here is just a bunch of different options, right? So if you choose birthday shopping, here are the instructions. There's a little questionnaire that you can do. So let's say you just want to kind of think about your sexuality and fill out a little questionnaire related to that. That's something that you can choose. Condom shopping, getting tested for STIs, picking a sperm donor. I even had someone a couple of years ago be a sperm donor. You could go either way. And they got paid for it, which was very exciting. They're like, I got money and it was an assignment. You can go on a field trip to a sex shop. You can do sex and advertising, something related to movies, an art project, a book report. There's a bunch of different choices. And again, if you have another idea, you can always run it by me. And it might be that it's for the next one at this point, but if you have a thought, please feel free. But for each one of them, you're doing some kind of like field trip or like activity and then writing a short paper. So if you do an art project, you'll bring the art project and turn it into me, and then you'll turn in the paper on here. But when you're in this little link up at the top, here you'll submit it right here where it says start assignment. So you're submitting it electronically, so you don't have to print it unless you do something that you created, in which case you'll bring it to me. But it's for 25 points, pick one, and then you'll do a second one. I think it's in November, and you'll do the second one. Are there any questions or anything about the assignment? I know I mentioned it for a bit, but it's due Monday, so I just want to make sure it's on your mind going into the weekend. Yeah? Yes. So if you choose the questionnaire, let me go back. Here. So if you choose the questionnaire, see how it's right here underneath it? I don't know why I put it under number 2, but it's right here. Here's the My Sexuality questionnaire. So if you do that one, the questionnaire has a bunch of questions on it that will help you to write the paper. So you don't have to turn in your actual questionnaire responses unless you want to upload it, but it'll help you with writing the paper. It kind of gives you some direction of where to go. Anybody else for now? Anything else about the homework assignment? Yeah.
It was just about to, so is there 33 page? Is it going to be about the questions that you looked at?
Yeah, so the questions are like on the questionnaire and you'll answer those in your paper.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to do it twice. But some people will like handwrite them on the questionnaire and then like write up the paper, or you can just do it in the paper. It's up to you.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, they're all like basically 2 to 3 page paper with some kind of activity or something that you create or a little field trip that you go on. And again, I would love you to push yourself. Right, but it's up to you. Like you can also do it for the second one, but like if you don't want to go to a sex shop, take that one for the second one and take a friend. But lots of choices. Yeah. Yes, they are. Right. And I love that you went there. And so that's one of there's 2 places that I made you go to one of them for a reason, because they're very like positive. It's a very clean, like it defies the stereotypes of sex shops, because we all have stereotypes of what they tend to look like, and some are very much that way. But the Pleasure Chest and then the Hustler Store are both really nice, like very open, positive places. And they will be like, usually they're really nice. When you ask them a question, they'll like take sometimes more time than you would like to answer it for you, right? But I love that. Anything else for now? Feeling Okay about that? And as soon as you have it done, you can turn it in. It's open. A couple of you have actually already turned it in. But when you're done with it, feel free to just upload it and get it off your to-do list. Okay. Otherwise, we'll go back to where we left off. We'll finish up female anatomy today. But really quickly as a review, right? We spent a lot of time talking about the menstrual cycle from days 1 to 28, right? Which phase is right here from days 1 to 6? Menstruation or the menstrual phase, right? How about from 6 to 13? Follicular. What happens at day 13, 14? Ovulation. What did we call this period of time? The fertile window, which you can use to help you get pregnant or avoid getting pregnant. And then by process of elimination, what's this last phase here? Luteal, right? We have that corpus luteum that forms to keep the lining of the uterus being like developed in preparation for a fertilized egg. And then when that fertilized egg doesn't come, we start right back over with menstruating again, and over and over and over again, for roughly like 25 to 30 years on average of a person's life. And we talked about PMS and we talked about PMDD, PMS being really common, most women having that to some degree, some months, maybe not all, but some months. And then PMDD was like the extreme version that is much, much, much less common. I had somebody, I think it was a couple of years ago, they gave me kind of a cool video as part of their homework assignment. I don't know if any of you have seen this before, like the whole first moon party. Getting your first menstrual cycle is a big rite of passage, right, for a lot of people, right? And sometimes it could be a moment of like embarrassment or shame, but it also sometimes is really celebrated. And so somebody sent this to me. It was about like the first moon party. Remember, menstruation comes from mene or moon and the lunar cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's stuff like this, it's stuff like this that really kind of really connects like menstruation with just werewolves.
Right, it does, right? The moon, right? The lunar cycle, right? Anyway, right. But yeah, it makes you think of it. It's hard not to think of like werewolves with the moon, right? But yeah, like this idea of a first moon party is like celebrating this rite of passage. There's a little video that went through this, or went with this that I'll play for you. I think it's kind of an entertaining, like they throw a big party for her as she has her first like menstrual cycle. All right, but let me pause this real quick. Which some people are very eager to get their first cycle to like have that rite of passage, and other people wishing that it would stay away as long as possible, right? But I love that she fakes it. Her mom knows those are embarrassing first moon party. So we'll move on, but just kind of one last thought with that before we did. Let me make this bigger here. Talking about some like reproductive concerns and health related concerns for female anatomy specifically. We'll do the same when we get to male anatomy. The doctor that's in charge of like reproductive concerns for women is an OB/GYN, okay, an obstetrician gynecologist. They tend to go together. Most people just go to their primary care doctor for regular checkups. And starting from a very young age, they typically will check your like vulva and like external anatomy. When you start to hit puberty, they'll start doing a little bit more like of an inspection or a check. Breast exams when you get a little bit older, pap smears when you get a little bit older. But it's typically an OB/GYN is like the specialist, but you would go to your primary doctor for most things. Now, the biggest test that women tend to have is called a pap smear. The full name is a Papanicolau smear, named after the doctor who invented it, but they call it a pap smear for short. And they're screening for different types of cervical cancer. It's one of the most common things to affect women in terms of their like reproductive health. Now you should have your first pap smear no more than 3 years after becoming sexually active or by the age of 21. Okay, so they'll start asking you as you are in your teen years, are you sexually active? Right. And then if you haven't had one by the age of 21, they'll do your first one. Not a very fun or comfortable experience, but it is important to do. What they're doing, and you can see the image here, is they oftentimes will have a woman put her legs up in stirrups, and then they take a small little scraping from the cervix. I won't say that it's necessarily like super painful for most people, but it is uncomfortable to like lay that way. And then they put these little, they call them ducklets, but it's a speculum. they open up the vaginal canal, take like a strong like Q-tip that's got like a little rough edge on it, scrape a little sample, and then they test it for different types of like cancers and like cancerous tissues. So they do this every few years, depending on your level of sexual activity, your family's like medical history, but typically by the age of 21 or 3 years after becoming sexually active. Another really common condition that women tend to experience is PCOS. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a really common like metabolic endocrine disorder that a lot of women struggle with. It can cause a lot of irregularity in menstrual cycles, struggles with fertility as a result, getting pregnant. It can affect hormones. It leads to like increased facial hair, irregular menstrual cycles. It's a very common thing that a lot of women struggle with, which can require medication sometimes, or even like birth control pills, or metformin is a very common drug that they prescribe to help with it, to regulate your hormones. Urinary tract infections and vaginal infections are also relatively common, right? The vaginal canal, a very like sensitive region of female anatomy, right? It can be thrown off very easily and cause infections to occur or irritation to occur. And so oftentimes checking that, regular hygiene to help with that as well can be important. And then there's a bunch of different cancers that can affect women, like ovarian cancer, cancer of the ovaries, cancer of the cervix, and cancer of the uterus. So regular checks and screenings are important, especially if you are sexually active, because that means you're having more like exposure, right, to your different like reproductive anatomy. And so you need to be monitoring it a little bit more closely. But typically, as I said, even from a young age, a doctor will start doing these checks. And then when you're a little bit older, doing things like pap smears and so on. Yeah.
For the peppermint, why does it have to be 3 years after being typically?
Yeah, that's so I think they're just trying to make sure that you have it by a certain age, right? So the more sexually active you are, the more obviously you're introducing into your system potentially. And so they want at that point to do it. Like, and it's up to the doctor. Every insurance is different. So like we have Kaiser, and Kaiser typically recommends 18 years old, but by 21. So they're just creating a time frame. So if you're sexually active at a younger age, like 15 or 16, then they would encourage you to start earlier. I don't know why they chose 3 years, but they're just making it, kind of make sure you get going on it, I think is the thought. But it depends on your insurance and your doctor. Every doctor is a little bit different. That's kind of a general rule. Any other questions or thoughts or comments or anything here for the moment? No. Other big part of female reproductive anatomy, the breasts, right, which are a secondary sex characteristic. Okay, so primary sex characteristics would be like the vulva, the vagina, the penis. Secondary sex characteristics would include breasts. Now we're talking about it here for women, but men can possess breasts too, right? It's not as common, but men do have breast tissue. And there's a rare condition called, oh my gosh, I just forgot the name of it. It'll come back to me. Gynecomastia, thank you. What was that?
Basic gyno.
Yeah, gynecomastia is the name of it, right? That was enough, thank you. And men can actually develop breast tissue and develop breast cancer, but it's very, very rare. But with women, breasts have two functions. One is arousal and one is milk production. Okay, so the breasts are a very like dense area of nerve endings, especially around like the areola and the nipple. And they can be very sensitive. Some women like them to be stimulated, some don't. So arousal is a big piece, but they also produce milk after childbirth. You can produce milk without having a baby. Very difficult to do. It involves like continuous stimulation of hormones. But traditionally, it's something that happens for women right after giving birth or as they're getting ready to give birth. All of the hormones and then the baby like stimulating the nipple produces milk. But those are the two main functions of breasts, right? Arousal and milk production. Just like with vulvas, right? An incredible amount of variety. Not uncommon to have one breast be larger or smaller than the other, right? Typically not portrayed in the media that way, but it's very, very common for women to have uneven sized breasts. And some like very large, some very small, kind of all over the place. Just like it's important to have exams for pap smears and vaginal health, it's important to do exams for breast health as well. Typically, it's encouraged as soon as you have breast tissue. So typically by like your late teens, early 20s, you should be doing self breast exams. Okay? And this is something that doctors will very much encourage you to do. And oftentimes people are like, well, how do I know if something is wrong? Breasts are naturally lumpy. True, right? Breasts are very lumpy tissue. It's fatty tissue, which has a lot of lumps in it. But what you're feeling for is something out of the ordinary. Okay, so you should have like kind of a regular way that they feel. And if you feel something that isn't normally there, that's when you should potentially like follow up with a doctor. Now, this is encouraged to do like monthly. And what's tricky with breast tissue is breasts can become very like sensitive during like the menstrual cycle. Hormones can make them very sensitive for some people. But this is something you should try and do like every month or two, just to make sure that there's nothing out of the ordinary. Breast cancer is one of the most common cancers affecting women. So trying to check it and kind of notice it early is important. And you can make this a fun activity, like make it part of like a fun activity before it leads to other things, right? Like, but you should be doing it monthly. It can be yourself or a partner who does it for you. A mammogram or a mammography is the like actual test that we do if someone maybe detects something that wasn't supposed to be there. Or once you hit the age of 40, they want you to do this for the first time. Depends again on the insurance, but typically at the age of 40, they encourage you to go for your first mammogram. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they do, right? And there's no sugarcoating it. They squish your chest in between two plates. And it's not comfortable. I had my first one like 2 years ago. I've been off for 2 years. I'm 44. And like it's not fun, but they're important, right? And so what they do, kind of like you see here, this is what the x-ray looks like, and she's kind of blurred in the bathroom, but they literally have you go up to a machine and you place your breast on the like plate, and then another plate comes down and squishes. And they take a bunch of pictures and check for any information. Did I sell that? Does that sound fun? Right? Yeah. Yeah.
And when they kind of put all this like tissue
Yeah.
there, because like
Right.
right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not comfortable, period, right? And when you're young, they'll do an ultrasound. So if like something is bothering you on like a breast, when you're younger, they'll do an ultrasound, like where they have a wand and they just kind of go over it with like a gel. But when you get older, this is the process. Now, there are some places that have a newer way of doing it, but it's not popular because it's expensive. And where you lay on a table and like the breast goes through like holes in the table, and then the machine comes up underneath, and it's thought to be way less like invasive, but it's so expensive to have these things that it's not common. But the vast majority of places, yeah, they swish your breast between two plates and look for any abnormalities, unfortunately. Not the most fun thing to do. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so if you go on, there was a great video, I saw this on YouTube, like if you go on YouTube and do how to do a self-breast exam, typically what they encourage you to do is to take a couple of fingers and just like feel around like your breast tissue, and you're feeling for anything out of the ordinary. So if you do these every month or two, you kind of have an idea of what your breast normally feels like. And then you're looking for anything like that hurts or is like a hard lump, but it's typically thought to be like a circular motion. If you go to a doctor, they'll do a breast exam as well, as part of like a yearly checkup. Those yearly checkups get less fun the older you get, I think, where they do like a breast exam, they do a pap smear. You know, for men, they'll do like testicular exams. We'll get there. Well, like we'll talk about that too. But you know, it's something that you should be doing with some degree of regularity. Because if you catch it early, you can often like intervene. Yeah.
I think that self-exam should be like promoted more.
They should.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to just figure out that it's first.
So some people, they'll start having pain somewhere. And the hard part is you can have pain in a breast without it being cancerous. Like oftentimes people get clogged ducts or little like benign tumors or cysts. My partner, like 4 years ago, had a lot of pain in like one of her breasts and went in and had a mammogram. And when you're in pain, that makes it even more painful. And it turned out it was like a benign cyst. And they put a little tag on it and they mark it and they watch it every year. Right. And so benign cysts are really common. But if you catch them early, you can do more, right, than if you catch it late. Unfortunately, one of the things that happens with breast cancer is sometimes they'll remove the breast tissues, right? My aunt had breast cancer, and I don't know, I think she paid a lot of money to have it done because she did plastic surgery, but they had to remove both of her breasts. And then they took the fat from her stomach to shape her new ones. And she's like, it was like the best thing in my life. She's like, I lost all my stomach fat. I got 2 brand new, beautiful breasts and like lost the cancer, right? She was thrilled, right, at the time. I'm sure it cost her a fortune, but like, she was like, it was such a win-win. I was like, way to make the best of an awful situation, right? She took all her stomach fat and made it into 2 new breasts. But if you catch this early, oftentimes there are procedures that can be done rather than doing something like a mastectomy where you're removing a breast or maybe even both breasts. All right, I have a video that I want to play for you about breasts, but before we do, slang. We forgot the slang for breasts. I don't want to skip that. There's so much, right? So find a couple of people around you. Somebody write it down so you can share it. All the slang you can come up with for breasts. Write it down. You both said that at the exact same time. That's so funny. You were on the same brainwave.
Yeah, Hooters. That's very possible. That's it. Oh, water was. All right. They eventually that one up. That will go. The rest is like named the head. Oh. So bad.
Go Jeremy. I'll look it up to you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple more minutes and then we'll see what we came up with.
That sounds like a Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's usually like exclusive to get my this.
But.
For you. You get to be.
What was it?
Friday.
Yeah, I've never heard that one.
I like that we have like public schools.
That's it. And you won't see it myself.
This week I got on. I didn't, I'm sure I like.
Yeah, you have no problem with it. I'll-
Daddy Bojangles.
I think this.
Yeah.
Good one.
A lot of good brown sugar.
They would-
I went was the start of this.
Yeah.
And I found like 5 or 6, but I'm sure it's like something.
I was fine. This was already- Right? He's fine.
I'm thankful for you.
Yes. So.
Yes.
Yeah. They just have like a fire.
All right, have we exhausted our slang?
Yeah.
We good? Does anyone want to share? Anyone want to share their list? Want to read it off to us in all its glory? Okay, ready? We got our first one, and then we'll see if anyone.
Titties, cheat sheets, boobies, tatas, knockers, milkers, melons, jugs, coconut.
All right, lots of food. Again, lots of food with female anatomy, right? Anyone else want to read their list? Yeah, go for it. Don't worry about our left. Just read the whole thing. All right.
Oh, right.
Anybody else? Yeah, go for it.
Alright, we got yaboos, boobies slash boobs, I kind of put those in the same one. Tatas, milkers, cherries, jugs, titties slash tits, honkers, dazungas, hooters, water balloons, and rat.
I like it. Rack. That's a good common one. Anybody else? Did we miss any? Those are good lists, right? Thank you. Yeah.
Badonkers.
Okay. Right.
This is simply like taken down of like something else like I forget what it was, but it's like basically it's like this guy just picking up this funny I just saw like okay, it's like basically he says this as he says, and I quote, okay, so there's this Amber girl, she's got huge boobs, I mean serious honkers and a real set of badonkers, a real set of Brolonkers. I forgot what the other was, but it's like humongous,
man. I like it.
humongous gongas. No, gongas. Like I just can't help but think that, and it's like now whenever I think of like boobs, whether it just be like the pecs of a man or something like that, I just think badonkers.
Yeah, that's a good one, right? I like it, right? So much slang, and I have high expectations, I have to tell you. So I have to end a little bit early today, but next time we're gonna start with like penis slang. And I have expectations. Over the weekend, like be thinking about it. I plan to ask my in-laws over dinner tonight if they have any slang. My father-in-law's face, right? But I have a video I want to show you related to breasts, and they're gonna go over some of the slang terms that you said. Now, 2 things before I show you this. So this video is older. Like it was made, I believe it was 2001. And I feel like you can tell that it's dated. I feel like you can tell that it's dated, but it's still really good. What I love about this video, and there's a male equivalent of it, right? That if we have time, we'll get to it. It's a bunch of women, they take off their shirts and they're talking about like their discomfort and expectations and things around their breasts. And I love the vulnerability of it. I think it's pretty amazing. But the other piece of information, it has the worst music ever.
Oh, God.
It is so catchy in like the worst way. And if I had to hear it, now you get to hear it, right? So I'm going to share this with you, and I'm so sorry if it's stuck in your head. It's bad. And then the male version has like the same bad music. So something to look forward to or dread. We'll see what you think, right? But I'm only going to play for you about 13 minutes of it, 11, 12 minutes, somewhere in there. But I love that they're talking about like their vulnerability, the expectations, little kids talking about like the idea of like breast size and what they think their breasts will look like one day. There's just some really wonderful like vulnerability with it. So let me play this for you. And again, only about 12 minutes. But be ready for the music. It's coming. Here it comes. Brace yourself, it's coming. I'm turn it up. Yeah. I'm like weirdly excited for it. Here he comes.
Chakalaka chee chai chai chakalolum gundo gundo banapakawan. Chakalaka chee chai chai chakalolum gundo gundo banapakawan. Chakalaka chee chai chai chakalolum.
Download it, I'm sure.
gundo banapakawan.
Told you the music was epic, right? No. I agree.
Their breasts, their titties, their boobs, they're them, they're a separate entity, they're a monster within themselves.
Hooters.